My name is Amber Smith. As the president and CEO of the Tucson Metro Chamber, I enjoy sharing with the community business stories, industry issues, and philanthropic efforts happening right here in Tucson. Let me welcome our guest here this morning, Miss Anna Blessing from Tucson Biofeedback. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Dr. Anna Blessing is a biofeedback specialist and transpersonal therapist with a demonstrated history of working in the health, wellness, and personal empowerment industry. Dr. Anna has been working as a biofeedback specialist since 2012 after healing herself of fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, migraines, and a mix of other health issues. Dr. Anna has since helped over 2,500 people overcome health conditions that they were told they would have to suffer with. She's very excited to have opened up her most recent clinic right here in Tucson, where she has 3 biofeedback technicians on staff to support her growing patient base. Tucson Biofeedback provides 6 different treatments as well as complete biofeedback testing, generating 30 pages of detailed information unique to each patient. You're unique and one of a kind. Shouldn't your healthcare be the same? That's the motto of Dr. Anna. Welcome.
Thank you.
So this all sounds incredibly intriguing. What got you into healing work?
Well, as we just heard, I used to suffer from fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, migraines, and a mix of other issues. So what the doctors had told me was you were stuck with that and they would get worse over time. So anxiety and depression come with any health issues. It's kind of a byproduct of not feeling well. And that answer just didn't suffice. So I set on a path to heal myself naturally, which I did, and I don't have any of those issues anymore. And of course, that inspired me to help others who were told the same thing I was, that they can do the same.
So with hundreds of different healers out there of all kinds and types, what separates you from them?
I love all healers. So we're a network and community that work together, and I see many of them and refer out to them. But what really sets us apart is the biofeedback. So we're combining technology with ancient practices of really knowing your body, listening to your body, and being able to implement the changes needed. And the technology that we have today, as you know, with all of our phones and everything that have changed, it gives us things we didn't have even 10 years ago. So the ability to tap in and see in real time with real data what's going on from a testing perspective, and then also to be able to see and listen in on brainwaves and be able to alter them if they are dysregulated or creating problems such as anxiety and depression.
I have so many questions. I'm trying to just wrap them around as to where to begin.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those bits and pieces first with yourself and how you were able to explore other treatments and methods and got on that path. Can you give an example of what, say with the migraines?
For me personally, or how we help people?
I'm curious on the path that led you from yourself or how you've been able to help all these thousands of people. I mean, that is incredibly a huge success. Yeah,
it's been a life devotion actually for over a decade now. So yes, and there's no shortage of people feeling unwell. So for me, it really changed with looking at the emotional aspect of physical health. So that is, especially in Western medicine, they don't understand that the mental and emotional is connected to the physical. And that's how it talks to us. So really, when I was able to tap in and listen to why my migraines are there, what they were telling me, that's what transitioned everything. And of course, my journey was a lot more difficult than people who come in because we have the technology I didn't have then. And so we're able to really listen in and see exactly why their migraines are there, what their triggers are, and then neutralize them.
So with regards to that, what are the different type of treatments you offer your patients?
So we offer a mix of different ones, and they're unique to each person. We have our core treatments, I call them, are on the epigenetic level, and that means the ability to turn gene expression on and off. So we used to think we were a victim to our genes and our family history. Obviously, new science has told us we're not. So we're able to go in and look at the triggers of inflammation and pain pathways and be able to shut those off through biofeedback. And we also do neurofeedback, which works with the neurological pathways. In any areas that there's been trauma, whether physical or emotional, we can go in and rewire those. So those are a couple of our core treatments. And we also have, I call it the wand. It's not the FDA official term, but that thing is amazing. People come in and they feel like they walk out within 10 minutes feeling like they had an epidural. So that's works on pain, nerve damage. I used to have occipital neuralgia right through the back of my neck and spine. I was able to completely reverse that with what we call the wand.
So In layman's terms, this is all about biofeedback. That sounds like a fairly new term. Can you explain that and that relationship with the body?
Sure. Biofeedback is short for biological feedback. So obviously it reads the biology of the individual, and then the feedback signal is generated through technology or computers. So when it reads the signal, it just basically reads where it's dysregulated or creating problems, and then sends back a signal to rebalance the individual. And it's instantaneous. Signals can be sent in 1/1,000,000th of a second. And it's been around since, I might be a couple years off, but like 1908, and Harvard University was where it originated. Really, that's where they started studying biofeedback. And over the decades, it grew. And then in the 60s, it was huge, of course, with the hippie movement. That was when it got really big. And it recently has had a new resurgence with the advances in technology.
So with your treatments, you talked about the wand. What are some of the other ones, conditions that you're able to treat as well?
Yeah. Honestly, almost everything. So the reason is we don't treat diagnoses. We don't treat disease. We work with the individual as a whole because the body is not a disease. That's how an imbalance is manifesting. So when somebody comes in, whether it be an autoimmune condition, arthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia, allergies, food sensitivities, and a mix of other things that they're always coming up with new diagnoses these days because the body is just having a lot of trouble with what we're exposed to. We're able to look at that individual from the mental, emotional, physical level and basically help their entire system balance out.
With that relationship between the mental and physical, what about for depression and PTSD, where I always think there's a similar relationship?
Yeah. So the depression, PTSD, the anxiety, it kind of all falls into that same category. That one responds extremely well to the neurofeedback, which is short for neurological feedback. So that works with the brain waves and the brain patterns. So when there's PTSD, anxiety, or depression, what happens is the brain is locked into a certain pattern. And then every time it's exposed to a trigger that awakens that pattern, that's what gets the PTSD, the anxiety, and the depression, or it's constantly turned on because that pattern has just kind of taken over the brain. So through the neurofeedback, we're able to, again, listen in and see where that's having an issue, and then send a gentle feedback signal that helps the brain reorganize itself.
So how do you measure success, and what is your success rate in helping your patients?
We have a very high success rate. It's 89%, and that's measured by number of patients who come through the door and go through a program. At this point, we only work with people who go through a treatment program because coming in for 1 or 2 sessions, that's not going to give you the success rate. It takes a series, and that's what we measure. We only take people who go through a treatment series, and then upon completion, we calculate and also track where they were and where they were after. And so what happens is, not only do they usually achieve and overcome what they came in for initially, so much more opens up for them. So they have a bunch more benefits that they experience.
So walk us through what that looks like. So someone says, I have pain. I think that this approach would work for me. What does that appointment look like? How do they get a hold of you? And then you said there's a series of treatments. How long is that?
Yeah, so for a new patient, basically, if they're reaching out, we take them through a new patient consult and exam. That's what I do. And we run the biofeedback testing. So it's about 15 minutes. We have a connector. There's no needles, no blood. It's non-invasive, so even kids like it. And they come in for about 1 hour and 15 minutes in clinic. So we interpret the data in real time. And after the testing is completed, which is about 15 minutes, I go through and look at what's going on with them while they're sitting there on the screen. So they get to see it in real time, and they get to ask questions. What am I seeing and what is going on? So it can pick up toxicity, deficiencies, mental and emotional stress where it's impacting their organs, and a mix of other things. From that point, I take a few days to review the data on my own and put together both a diet and lifestyle plan and a treatment rec if I think that's what is necessary. So I don't always present a treatment recommendation unless it's absolutely necessary. And then from there, the series, they depend on what the individual came in for and what's going on in their body. So nothing's cookie cutter.
And I love that it's non-invasive, so no pain.
No, no needles, no blood.
So then what are some of the challenging cases you have witnessed healing occur with?
I was one. So I walked that path. I was a mix of things, for sure. And we've had a recent one that had 6 autoimmune conditions, plus fibromyalgia and horrible anxiety and PTSD from a life of trauma. I mean, some of these people come in with things you wouldn't even believe a human could go through. And she, for the first time in her life, could start smiling and living and being able to sleep without clenched fists. So that was an amazing case because her pain was just on a scale of 1 to 10, it was 11 all the time. Her fatigue, she could barely get out of bed. And she was an active person. And the trauma, of course, when you sleep with clenched fists, I mean, that's pretty intense. So being able to walk her through that and to have her regain life, actually before she didn't even have life, this started in her childhood, so she didn't even have anything to base what it is like to not live with trauma. And that's one really amazing case. It's really close to my heart.
So what other great examples do you have, like time frame? Is this something that is 6 weeks, 6 years? What does that, and of course it depends on your conditions, but what is the range?
Yeah. I don't believe healing ever ends. So we can always achieve new levels of our life and our potential. But our programs range 3 to 6 months on average. And that depends on how quickly one's body can go through the shifts. Because we do change a lot. And when you change the brain, you change the pathways, you start altering that gene expression. It's a lot of change that the body goes through. So on average, 3 to 4 months is what people go through if their bodies are doing really well. And we go a little slower with some people who are more sensitive, and that's more of a 6 month.
Does that sensitivity, do you see correlations in the age of the patient, or really, like you said, everyone's body is unique, but are there correlations with senior citizens that may have had some more severe spinal stenosis? I mean, some of those that are really neurologically based conditions.
It's not so much the age, it's the makeup of the individual. So there's some children who are really, really sensitive to the changes that go a little slower, and there are elderly people who can crush it and go right through. So it's more the makeup of that individual, which we learn as part of the biofeedback process, is they give us feedback on how their body's responding.
How do you work with the other healers in the community?
Yeah. So part of the testing, which is really cool, also can pick up what healing techniques and modalities will best serve a patient. So that helps a lot because we can kind of pinpoint what the body wants and needs. And I've built a network of different healers. So I'm always referring out, and even medical doctors, neurologists, I always utilize them. Sometimes we've had patients who come in and it's a little bit they're hitting some walls, so I need to make sure that there's no Lyme going on, Parkinson's, or something deeper. So I also have a network of people in the medical industry as well.
Where are you located?
We're at 4400 East Broadway. It's the white building. It used to be Bank of Tucson. It's now Pacific Premier. So it's that square white building.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit more on your success stories. I think that for our listeners this morning, for them to really relate to it, what other experiences have you had with some of the great patients?
Yeah. So migraines are a common one. So, for example, I had a patient who had migraines for 17 years, and to the point where it would put her in the ER about 3 to 6 times a year. I mean, they were terrible. She had tried Botox. She'd tried acupuncture. I mean, you name it, she'd tried it. And when she found us and came to us and we were able to see what those migraine triggers are, she became migraine-free. So for the first time in 17 years, not having a migraine, and on top of her hormones balancing and other things that came of that was huge. She could actually go to her children's games and be present for them. Another one was a younger woman. She was around 30. Horrible food sensitivities and a couple autoimmune conditions, because all autoimmune conditions are actually connected to nutrient sensitivities and food sensitivities. So if you can go back and reverse those triggers, you can usually start reversing the condition. And she couldn't eat dairy for the past 15 years. She can now eat dairy, which, she was happy about.
So talk to me about how you became a healer.
Yeah. My own story, of course. I think most healers are. Most healers go through a lot of their own health conditions, their own traumas, and different experiences that equip them to have that compassion and to know what it feels like to be suffering. Even if you look good on the outside, you look fine, you look normal, it's those invisible illnesses that really plague us. And there's so many people suffering from that. And so that just, I couldn't do anything different at this point. It's just in me, to help others because I know what it was like not having answers. I know what it was like to just try this pill. Oh, it's not working. Try another one. And it just wasn't fixing the issue. And I know our bodies are not meant to live like that.
Right. But what is the knowledge and foundation? How do you gain that level of expertise?
The education, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the background of education. Yep. So I became a nutritionist back in 2009. So that's where my foundation started. And then from the nutrition aspect, it evolved into taking a number of certification courses, understanding the mental and emotional connection with the body. And then I have my PhD. So that, of course, is a long journey to get to. But I have my PhD, and I combine the transpersonal therapy and psychology with my background in nutrition, which kind of brings it all together.
The mind and the body.
Right.
All of that together.
Yeah. You can't separate it.
It's so interesting to hear you say it because I hadn't thought about it like that, but it makes complete sense because of stress on the body, what that can do, which is an emotional state that turns into a physical state really quickly.
Yes.
So you treat children as well. How does that work? I mean, I would think that the kids would be really receptive to a warmer environment than something that they're typically accustomed to. Mm-hmm. So what is your patient makeup?
I don't have one demographic, honestly.
Sure,
they're all ages. It's just open-mindedness, right? So the kids, they do love it. Actually, one boy graduated, that's what we call it when they complete a program, graduated last night. And he originally came, his mom brought him, he played, what is that game, Fortnite? Mm-hmm. He was addicted to that. And every time she tried to get him off, he would have horrible rage outbursts. Yeah. And so she was like, we need some behavioral changes. So he graduated last night and she's like, he's a different kid. He's a totally different kid. He's peaceful. He just understands okay, this is my time. And she loved it because she goes, there's no placebo effect. He has no idea what's going on. He just shows up to the appointments. He has no idea what they do, what you're doing with him. And it's changed him completely.
Well, that is certainly telling in itself.
Yes.
So that relationship with the nutrition to your body as that foundation, how do other healers, you're set apart because of the great way you're integrating technology. On the nutrition part, what are the other pathways that healers can take potentially in the field for our listeners that might want to be able to explore a similar career?
Incorporating biofeedback or technology? Or
if they want to become a healer, your path went through starting as a nutritionist, going that way. What are the other alternatives to that?
There's a number of paths. Obviously, there's acupuncture, chiropractic. So if somebody is feeling like they want to go into the healing field, my first suggestion would be, do you like touching bodies? Because if you don't like touching bodies, don't go into a bodywork form like massage or chiropractic. I'm not a bodywork and I don't enjoy it. That's why I like biofeedback. But if you do, then look at what can you do where you're hands-on with bodies and patients, and explore that and try things. You're going to find your fit, but try a few different things for yourself as treatments. And then if you're kind of interested in them, go explore that as a healer.
And what is the accessibility for these patients and being able to get your services? Does insurance cover it? Is it cash basis? What does that model look like?
Sure. Insurance does not cover our services. So it's either out of pocket. We take credit cards. So when people say cash, sometimes they think, you got to bring actual cash. Right. We take credit cards. And we also have medical financing available too. So you can break down payments starting from as low as $250 to $10,000. So we have a ton of different options. And then HSA accounts. So those are really popular now, the health savings accounts. Those do work at our clinic from the insurance side. But as far as billing or doing a super bill, that they don't cover this.
Well, the HSA part is really something noteworthy for our listeners as well, to be able to best use that in a more natural form, quite frankly.
Yes.
And being able to help yourself and your body. So how does someone make an appointment? Phone number, address, online?
The fastest way is to go online, TucsonBiofeedback.com. There's a new patients tab. They can literally just click the new patients tab and schedule with our availability. So once they go to schedule, it will be the full body biofeedback scan is the new patient exam I talked about earlier.
The hour and a half, hour and 15
hour and 15,
minutes.
yep. And then the second phone call with their plan. And they can look at our availabilities and check their schedule. So that's the fastest way instead of going back and forth trying to figure out two people's schedules.
Sure.
They can literally just view it there. And those are all with me too. I have the 3 techs, but they're there to administer treatments. So I do all new patient intakes.
And how far out are you scheduling? Can someone be able to get in as soon as next week?
If I have a reschedule, yes. But right now it's about 2 weeks out. So if they are thinking about getting an appointment, I always say the sooner the better. And they can always request that they're put on like a cancellation list. And that way, if anything does open up, we can move them.
That's exciting that, quite frankly, that there is a bit of a wait because it means that these services are in high demand.
Yes, yes.
What would you like to leave our listeners with?
I would like to leave them with hope. Like, no matter how ill they feel, no matter how depressed or how overwhelming life may feel, that there is hope, that everything that they have been going through does not mean that that's where their future lies, that that's not what their body and life is capable of. Like, they can literally heal and reverse that. And I really want people to understand that the power that our bodies have, the power that we have, is so much greater than we have been led to believe, and so much greater than the medical industry understands. And so just know that there is another way. You have to be open-minded and you have to have willingness. There, of course, is a level of discomfort when change comes into play, especially when all of a sudden we're presented with something that we've been saying we want. When it does present itself, there can be some resistance there. But it is so possible to have a brand new life. And I really want them to know that.
Give them your phone number again.
Yeah. So again, website's fastest. So TucsonBiofeedback.com, and we text. So texting is always great. And the phone number is 520-314-6894.
And the website, again, www.TucsonBiofeedback.com.
Yes. And if you don't know how to spell biofeedback, if you just Google Tucson Biofeedback, and even if you mess it up a little bit, you'll see us. And there's some Google reviews too. People like to and really enjoy reading the reviews because they get to hear other people's stories.
The stories, the testimonials. Thank you so much, Dr. Anna Blessing with
Thank
Tucson
you.
Biofeedback.